I had just stepped outside, my towel still damp from the water, when I saw her, a woman mid-40s, heavily spray-tanned, with a short, aggressively angled bob, was lounging in my patio chair like she owned the place. One leg crossed over the other, she tilted her oversized sunglasses down to look at me, the type of stare that made my skin prickle. And beside her, a kid, maybe 8 or 9, gleefully splashing in me pool. For a long second, I just stood there, blinking. I had just been in that pool not 10 minutes ago. I had just gone inside to grab my phone. My sunscreen was still on the chair next to her, now unceremoniously dumped onto the ground like trash. My hat was crushed under one of her chunky, bejeweled sandals. The audacity, the sheer mind-bending entitlement. My voice came out sharper than I expected. "Excuse me, why are you in my backyard?" The woman who I would later know as Karen, though she might as well have been the blueprint for every self-important suburban tyrant, tilted her head and blinked at me, as if I was the one in the wrong. "Oh, is this your house?" she asked, her voice thick with fake surprise, like I had somehow appeared out of thin air. I stared at her, incredulous. Yeah. Who else's would it be?" She let out a breezy laugh, flipping her bob with an elegant flick of her wrist. "Well, you weren't here, and my son wanted to swim. The lake is just too cold today. You understand, right?" She gestured towards the pool with a casual wave, as if that somehow made any of this normal. "No," I said, the words slicing through the air like a blade. "No, I don't understand, because this is me property, my backyard, my pool, and you're trespassing." The woman's face twisted into something pinched and sour, like she had just sucked on a lemon. "Well, there's no need to be so rude about it," she huffed, crossing her arms. "We're neighbors. Neighbors help each other out. It's just a pool. It's not like we're hurting anything." My jaw nearly unhinged. Not hurting anything? My hat was under her shoe. My chair was occupied by someone who clearly thought property rights were an optional suggestion. And worst of all, her kid, who, to be fair, seemed completely oblivious, was still happily paddling around in my pool like this was some sort of public facility. I turned my gaze to him. "Hey, buddy, you need to get out. That was the wrong move." Karen shot up so fast she nearly knocked over my chair. She stormed up to me, finger jabbing in the air like she was about to call forth the wrath of every entitled suburban mom in a 5-mile radius. "How dare you speak to my child that way?" she shrieked, so loudly I swore I saw a few birds take off from the trees. EELINGS, sill, you know. You can't just kick him out like that. Like hell I can't. I shot back, barely keeping my temper in check. "This is my house, my property. You are trespassing." Her nostrils flared. I could almost see the steam pouring out of her ears. And then she smirked, a slow, insufferable smirk that made my stomach churn. "Fine," she said, too sweetly, like a rattlesnake coiled and ready to strike. "Go ahead. Call the cops. I'll just tell them you threatened my child. We'll see who they believe." I nearly choked on my own rage. Was this woman serious? She had broken into Bami backyard, was using me pool, had the gall to act like I was the one in the wrong, and now she was threatening to lee to the police. I clenched my fists, exhaling sharply through my nose. "You need to leave now," Karen scoffed. Wow. Just wow. You know, I thought this was a friendly neighborhood. I thought we looked out for each other. But no, instead, I get some selfish, inconsiderate man who can't even let a little boy enjoy a swim. Pathetic. She turned back to her son, adopting a sickeningly sweet tone. "Come on, sweetie. This mean man doesn't know how to share. We'll go somewhere else, somewhere nicer. I watched, stunned, as she car-kicked my overturned chair on her way out, muttering curses under her breath. The kid who I honestly felt kind of bad for just trudged after her, dripping wet and entirely unaware of how unhinged his mother was. Just as she reached the gate, she turned, flipping me the bird. "Enjoy your stupid pool, loser." And then, like some cursed fever dream, she was gone. I stood there, heart pounding, fingers digging into my palms. I needed cameras. Immediately. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, oh no, I was furious. The kind of fury that sits in your bones, simmering, turning every passing second into an infuriating reminder of how the world can be so incredibly, frustratingly unfair. The sheer audacity of Karen's behavior played over and over in my head like a broken record, each detail sharpening my anger like a blade. She had trespassed onto mommy property. She had thrown things onto the ground like they were trash. She had threatened to lie to the police about me, and she had walked away like she had won. No way in hell. By morning, I was running on 3 hours of sleep and pure caffeine-fueled determination. The first thing I did? Security cameras. I ordered a full set online high definition, night vision, motion detection, the works, same-day delivery. I spent the next few hours setting them up around my property, making sure every possible entry point was covered. No one was, ever, going to trespass onto my land again without me knowing. And then I waited. It didn't take long. By the late afternoon, I heard the unmistakable sound of heels clicking against pavement, a rhythmic, arrogant little click, click, click that sent a fresh wave of irritation down my spine. I looked out the window. There she was. Karen. And she wasn't alone. 2 other women stood beside her, arms crossed, sporting the same suburban warrior stance, the kind that screamed, "We demand to speak to the manager of reality itself." I stepped outside before they could even knock, arms crossed. "You've gotten seconds to tell me why you're back before I call the cops." Karen scoffed, like the very idea of me calling the police was some sort of joke. "Oh, relax. We're here to talk," she said, adjusting the oversized sunglasses perched on her head. "No need to be dramatic. You trespassed on my property yesterday, Karen. You threatened me. Now you're back. What exactly about this isn't dramatic?" One of the other women, a shorter, platinum blonde lady with a tight, pursed smile, cleared her throat. "We're part of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA, she announced, as if that meant anything to me. I blinked. "Okay." Karen's lips curled. "This neighborhood has standards, and we're here to make sure everyone follows them. That includes your pool." I laughed. Actually, laughed. "Karen, my house isn't even part of your HOA. You cannot tell me what to do with my property." I checked. "I have the legal documents proving it." The third woman, a tall, thin lady who had been silent up until now, took a step forward. "Your pool," she said, voice tight, "is visible from more properties. It creates an atmosphere that isn't in line with our community guidelines." I stared at them, waiting for them to say something that actually made sense. "Atmosphere? You're mad about an atmosphere?" Karen sniffed. "We're asking you nicely to make adjustments. Otherwise, we will have to take official action." My jaw clenched. "Adjustments? Yes. Starting with removing it." I was so close to losing it. "Let me get this straight. You want me to get rid of my pool on my own property because you don't like looking at it?" Karen shrugged, feigning innocence. "It's an eyesore. We're only thinking of property values. If you join the HOA, we could come to a mutual agreement about how your home should be properly maintained." Oh, so that was it. This wasn't about my pool. This was about control. Karen wanted me under her thumb. She wanted me to cave. to hand over a monthly HOA fee and ask permission for everything I did with my own home. This was extortion wrapped up in fake smiles and bureaucratic nonsense. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. And then I smiled. A slow, deliberate, dangerous smile. You know what? Hold that thought. I have something to show you. I turned on my heel and walked back inside, ignoring their confused murmurs. Seconds later, I returned with my laptop. Here's the thing, Karen, I said, setting it down on the porch railing. You made one mistake when you came back here today. You assumed I wouldn't be prepared. But I was. I clicked play. On the screen, crystal clear footage from my brand new security cameras. The video showed Karen and her kid climbing over my fence, making themselves at home in my backyard. The audio was perfect. Every single word of our conversation from yesterday was recorded in high definition, including her threat to lie to the cops. Karen's face drained of color. Now, I continued, watching the panic set in, I could take this to the police. In fact, I should. You did break the law. But I'm feeling generous, so here's what's going to happen. I leaned in slightly. You and your little HOA friends are going to turn around and walk away. You are never going to step foot on my property again. You are never going to try and force me into your pathetic little suburban dictatorship. And if I ever catch you trespassing again, I smiled, I will press charges. Karen stammered, looking back at the other two, searching for backup. But the HOA women, they were already backing away. Karen opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but she must have seen the absolute certainty on my face. Without another word, she spun on her heel and stormed off, her plastic friends scurrying after her. I watched them go, a deep, satisfied breath filling my lungs. And then, just for good measure, I waved. The cameras caught everything. I thought that was the end of it. I really did. I had humiliated Karen and her HOA minions so thoroughly that I was sure they wouldn't dare set foot near my property again. The way they had scurried off after seeing the footage? Priceless. I'd practically gift-wrapped my victory and put a bow on it. But Karen was the kind of entitled that didn't accept defeat. She marinated in it, and then she came back swinging. It started small. I woke up the next morning to find my mailbox stuffed so full of violation notices that the damn thing was practically wheezing under the weight. Unauthorized pool, unkempt landscaping, improper fencing height, noise complaints. Each letter, signed in Karen's ridiculous loopy signature, warned of escalating fines. I wasn't legally required to pay, mind you, since I wasn't part of the HOA, but the sheer volume of them was obscene. I crumpled one in my fist and exhaled slowly. All right, fine. Let her waste her ink. Let her drown herself in passive-aggressive paperwork. I wasn't going to take the bait. Then my trash bins disappeared. I spent an entire morning hunting them down, only to find them dumped half a mile away, stickered with another HOA warning. 2 days later, my water got shut off. Apparently, someone, Karen had called the utility company pretending to be me and requested a temporary disconnect for home renovations. At this point, I wasn't just mad. I was on the verge of launching a full-blown vendetta. I stormed over to the HOA office, half expecting Karen to be there waiting with her smug little smile. Instead, I got a receptionist who refused to even look at me as she handed over a copy of my violations. I skimmed the list. It was laughable. Excessive water usage, unapproved color of mailbox, unauthorized backyard livestock. Livestock? I didn't have a livestock. I turned to the receptionist, barely suppressing my fury. This is harassment. You know that, right? She gave me a customer service smile so fake I could practically hear the Windows startup sound effect behind her eyes. All complaints are reviewed by the HOA board, sir. You're welcome to file an appeal. Oh, I was going to file an appeal. I was going to shove it down their throats. I went home, rage practically vibrating in my bones, and spent the rest of the afternoon compiling every bit of evidence I had. The security footage, the fake notices, the damn stolen trash bins. And then, because I was done playing nice, I filed a formal complaint with the county sheriff's office. I was done. The deputy who took my statement barely blinked before muttering, "Karen Wilkins? Yeah, we know her." "Oh, do you?" Turns out I wasn't Karen's first victim. Far from it. The county had a stack of complaints against her. She had been harassing homeowners for years, threatening fines, sabotaging properties, even illegally towing cars she claimed were in violation of HOA policy. And yet, somehow, she had never faced any real consequences. I intended to change that. That night, I installed even more cameras, higher angles, better lighting, motion sensors set to alert my phone, and then I waited. Sure enough, at 2 a.m. my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Front yard. I bolted out of bed and checked the live feed. There she was, Karen, standing in my yard with a can of spray paint. I watched, jaw clenched, as she reached toward my mailbox, shaking the can with slow, deliberate movements. I was done watching. I threw on a hoodie and stormed outside, my porch light blasting to life as I stepped onto the driveway. "Drop it," Karen froze. Her head whipped toward me, eyes wide with something between panic and defiance. For a split second, she looked almost feral, like a raccoon caught rifling through garbage. Except the garbage was my property. Then, like a switch flipped, she straightened, smoothed her hair, and let out a breathy little huff. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's just paint. I was only leaving you a message." I glanced down at the mailbox. She'd already started. "HOA scum," I blinked. "Karen, I'm not even in the HOA." She had the nerve to glare at me. "That's the problem." I had to laugh. I had to. It was either that or start screaming into the night. "You do realize my cameras caught all of this, right?" I said, crossing my arms. "And that you're currently committing vandalism on camera." For the first time, Karen hesitated. "You wouldn't," she said, but there was an edge to her voice now, an almost pleading undertone. I just pulled out my phone and held it up, letting the screen glow illuminate her increasingly panicked face. "Sheriff's office already has a file on you, Karen. How do you think they're going to feel about adding criminal trespassing and vandalism to the list?" Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Her perfect little eye, always get what I want, world was collapsing right in front of her eyes. Then she ran, straight to her car, practically tripping over her own wedge sandals. The engine roared to life, and she sped off so fast she nearly took out my neighbor's mailbox instead. I exhaled, shaking my head as I turned back toward the house. The best part? The absolute best part? I had everything I needed to bury her, and oh, I would. The next morning, I wasted no time. The moment the sheriff's office opened, I was there, coffee in one hand, a USB drive in the other, ready to put an end to this nonsense, once and for all. I didn't even have to explain much. The deputy at the desk barely glanced at the footage before sighing heavily and rubbing his temples like this was just another chapter in the never-ending saga of Karen Wilkins, HOA tyrant. "She was out on your property again?" he asked, already pulling up her file on the system. "And this time, spray paint?" "Sure was," I said, casually sipping my coffee. She thought she was leaving me a message. He let out a low whistle. "She's just asking to get charged at this point." That's the plan. The sheriff's department didn't need much convincing. Between the vandalism, the trespassing, and the very clear audio of Karen, admitting she wanted to intimidate me into joining her cult HOA, they had more than enough to take action. "We'll handle it," the deputy assured me, handing back my USB drive. But fair warning, she's probably not going to go quietly. Oh, knew that. I just didn't expect her to escalate this fast. By the time I got back home, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Missed calls, texts, even a few emails from neighbors. I frowned, scrolling through the messages, each more frantic than the last. "Dude, what did you do to Karen? She's losing her mind. Just sent a mass email about you. Bro, she's saying you're a criminal? Are you actually in trouble?" I barely had time to process it before my doorbell rang. I opened it to find my neighbor Bill standing there, looking deeply amused. "Man, you gotta see this," he chuckled, handing me his phone. I took one look at the screen and immediately wanted to throw something. It was an email, a long-winded, unhinged manifesto sent to every homeowner in Oak Ridge Estates. And the subject line, "Community Alert, Dangerous Individual Among U.S." I scrolled down, already grinding my teeth. Karen had written a novel about how I was a threat to neighborhood harmony and a hostile resident engaging in criminal activity. She warned people to stay away for their own safety and, my personal favorite, claimed I had violent tendencies and a history of aggression toward community leadership. Oh, and she had the gall to end it with a reminder that HOA dues ensure the safety of our neighborhood. Let's keep it that way by standing together against disruptors. I let out a slow, disbelieving laugh. Wow, she's actually losing it. Bill smirked. "You ain't seen the best part yet. Keep scrolling." And then I saw it, a screenshot of me, standing on my porch the night before, holding my phone up to record her spray painting my mailbox. The caption under it, "Caught in the act." I nearly doubled over. "She's trying to make me look like the criminal? Me?" "Oh yeah," Bill said, laughing. "She's out for blood, dude. But honestly, she's overplayed her hand. Most of the neighbors know she's full of crap. People are pissed." I could already see the replies rolling in. Some were full of confused concern. "What do you mean, he's dangerous? I've never had an issue with him." Others were flat out roasting her. "Karen, you reported my mailbox being the wrong color last month, so forgive me if I don't take this seriously. Does dangerous individual mean not bending to your HOA tyranny? Damn, Karen, you're really trying to get sued for defamation, huh?" I could have let it go. I could have laughed it off and let the neighborhood rip her apart on their own. But no, I wanted her to feel this. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up my own email list of neighbors from that one time Karen accidentally included me in a mass HOA message, and started typing. Subject: correction regarding community alert. I attached the unedited security footage, the vandalism, the threats, every single violation she had committed against me. And, just for good measure, I included the sheriff's office case number, along with a little note. Since Karen seems confused about who the real criminal is, here's the actual evidence. Oh, and if anyone else has been harassed, the sheriff's department would love to hear from you. The moment I hit send, my inbox exploded. Within minutes, people were responding. Some just sent laughing emojis. Others thanked me for setting the record straight. A few even attached their own HOA horror stories, fines for absurd reasons, threats, sudden rule changes that only seemed to benefit Karen's friends. And then, the best message of all, I just called the sheriff's office. Apparently, you're not the only one pressing charges. This is about to get interesting. I sat back in my chair, grinning. Karen had ruled this neighborhood like a tyrant for years, but now she had picked a fight she couldn't win, and by the end of the day, she was going to lose. Because I wasn't the only one who had been waiting for this moment. By nightfall, my cameras caught something beautiful, something I would treasure forever. A sheriff's cruiser parked right in front of Karen's house. And Karen, standing in her doorway, arms flailing as two deputies calmly handed her a criminal citation. I grabbed my phone, zoomed in, and snapped a picture. I had to. It was history in the making. Then, with a satisfied sigh, I sent it to the neighbor group chat with a single caption. HOA leadership update. Justice served. If there was one thing I should have known about Karen by now, it was that she didn't go down without a fight. Even with the sheriff's department handing her a criminal citation on her own doorstep, even with half the neighborhood openly celebrating her downfall in our group chat, Karen wasn't the kind of person who admitted defeat. No, she was the kind of person who doubled down. And that's exactly what she did. The morning after her very public humiliation, I woke up to the sound of a truck idling in my driveway. Groggy, still in my damn pajamas, I staggered to the window and peered outside. My blood pressure nearly spiked into orbit. A tow truck, in me driveway, and standing beside it, arms crossed, a smug little smile curling her lips, was none other than Karen. I didn't even bother with shoes. I was out the door in seconds, my pulse hammering. What the hell do you think you're doing? Karen turned, looking me up and down with a mixture of disdain and amusement. Oh, good morning. I was just handling an ongoing violation. This vehicle, she gestured dramatically at my truck, which was parked perfectly legally in my driveway, has been reported as an abandoned eyesore by multiple community members. It needs to be towed immediately. I stared at her, dumbfounded. Are you out of your mind? This is me property. This is me truck. You have zero authority to do this. Karen tutted, shaking her head as if I was a slow child. That's where you're wrong. As acting president of the HOA, I have every right to ensure the neighborhood maintains its aesthetic integrity. And given your behavior, it's clear you're not fit to make these decisions yourself. The tow truck driver, who up until now had been fiddling with his rig, finally looked between us, brows furrowed. Sir? Is this your vehicle? Yes, I snapped, dragging a hand through my hair. And I didn't call for a tow. This woman has absolutely no legal right to remove my truck. The driver sighed, rubbing his jaw. Lady, I need proof that this is an HOA authorized tow, otherwise this is theft. Karen's smug expression flickered. I pounced on that hesitation. Oh, she doesn't have proof, I said, my voice dripping with mock sympathy. Because guess what? My house? Not part of the HOA. My property? Not under her jurisdiction. In fact, she's already got a criminal citation for trespassing. And vandalism, would you like me to call the sheriff so she can rack up another charge? Karen's face twisted into something ugly. This is an HOA matter, she snapped. We have guidelines. You've been openly hostile to community leadership, and we're well within our rights to... I pulled out my phone. Right, okay, that's enough. Calling the sheriff now. Karen's mouth slammed shut, so fast, I was surprised she didn't break a tooth. The tow truck driver, now looking thoroughly done with the entire situation, held up his hands. Yeah, I'm out. Not getting involved in this crazy. He climbed back into his cab and drove off, leaving Karen fuming in my driveway. I smiled. Problem solved. Now get off my property. She wasn't done. You think you're so clever, she hissed, stepping closer. But you don't understand what you've done. I ruined this neighborhood. I make the rules. And you're just a nobody, playing tough guy. I let out a slow, deliberate laugh. Yeah? Well, this nobody just made sure your stunt got caught on 6 different security cameras. Karen flinched, her eyes darting around my property, as if she could somehow see the cameras recording every second of her tantrum. I took a step forward, lowering my voice just enough to make sure she felt every word. And since you just tried to steal my truck, I think the sheriff's department is going to be very interested in hearing from me again. For the first time since this war had started, Karen looked uncertain. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. She pivoted on her heel, storming off without another word. And this time, she didn't look so sure of herself. I watched her go, heart still pounding, hands still shaking with adrenaline. Then, just to make sure she got the message, I sent a fresh email to the neighborhood list. Subject: HOA president caught attempting vehicle theft. Video attached within minutes. The responses rolled in, some outraged, some absolutely loving the drama. But one reply stood out above the rest. It's time we hold an emergency vote to remove Karen as HOA president. I sat back, grinning. Karen had spent years ruling this neighborhood like a dictator. But her reign? It was about to end. I barely had time to sit down before my phone buzzed again. Neighborhood group chat. 47 new messages. I clicked it open, already smirking, expecting more replies about Karen's latest meltdown. What I didn't expect, what made my smirk vanish instantly, was the video. A shaky, zoomed-in clip taken from across the street. Karen, on my porch, a lockpick in her hand. My stomach dropped. I tapped the video, making it full screen, and turned the volume up, sick of this nonsense. Karen's voice hissed, low but clear enough for the camera's microphone. If he won't comply, then I'll handle it myself. A clinking sound, metal scraping against metal. She was trying to break into my house. I bolted to my feet so fast my chair nearly tipped over. I grabbed my phone, fingers fumbling to dial 911, my brain still struggling to process the sheer insanity of what I was seeing. Karen had already trespassed. She had vandalized my property. She had tried to have my truck towed. And now, breaking and entering, I couldn't believe it. The call connected. 911, what's your emergency? Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a woman trying to break into my house. Her name's Karen Wilkins, and I have video evidence. The dispatcher took my address, assured me officers were en route, and told me to stay put. But I couldn't just sit there. Not when that lunatic was out there trying to invade my home. I pulled up my security cameras. The front porch feed was crystal clear. Karen, still hunched over my lock, wiggling the pick like she had any idea what she was doing. Then something made her freeze. A voice. Off camera. I unmuted the feed, my pulse hammering. Hey, what the hell are you doing? It was Bill, my neighbor. Karen jerked upright so fast she nearly dropped the pick. She whirled around, her face twisting into something between rage and panic. This doesn't concern you, Bill. Go inside. Bill didn't move. Like hell it doesn't. You're standing on someone else's porch, trying to break in. You lost your damn mind? Karen straightened, her posture shifting into that familiar Karen authority stance. I have every right. This man is a menace to the community. He's defying HOA regulations. He doesn't belong to the HOA. Bill shouted, throwing his hands up. Jesus, Karen, you're not the damn mayor. For a split second, I thought she was going to charge him. Her fists clenched. Her face turned an alarming shade of red. She opened her mouth, inhaling sharply. Police sirens. The color drained from her face. 2 squad cars came tearing down the street, lights flashing, engines growling. Karen bolted. She leapt off my porch, sprinting across my lawn in her wedge sandals like a deer on ice. The first officer barely had to step out before yelling, "MAAM, stop. Hands where we can see them." Karen did not stop. She made it about 4 more steps before another officer cut her off from the sidewalk, forcing her to skid to a halt. "Ma'am," the officer said firmly, reaching for his handcuffs, "you're under arrest for attempted breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and vandalism." Karen let out this ear-piercing shriek, like someone had just informed her that Starbucks had discontinued her favorite seasonal drink. "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. I stepped onto my porch, arms crossed. Not for long, you're not. She turned toward me, wild-eyed, her composure completely gone. This is your fault. You ruined everything. No, Karen, I said, shaking my head. You did that all by yourself. The officers dragged her to the squad car, her screeches growing more incoherent by the second. Bill stood next to me, shaking his head in disbelief. Well, damn, I knew she was nuts, but breaking into your house? I told you, I muttered. She doesn't know when to quit. Yeah, well, she's about to learn. I watched as the cruiser pulled away, Karen's furious shouts fading into the distance. By the time I checked my phone again, the neighborhood group chat was absolute chaos. Screenshots, videos, memes. Someone had already photoshopped Karen's mugshot onto an HOA newsletter with the title Breaking News, Dictator Dethroned. Then I saw the best message of all. Emergency HOA meeting scheduled for this Friday. Agenda, vote to remove Karen Wilkins. I grinned. Karen had spent years making everyone's lives hell, but now the neighborhood was done with her, and in just a few days, her reign of terror would be officially over. The night before the emergency HOA meeting, I barely slept, not because I was nervous, oh no. I was thrilled. Karen had spent years stomping all over this neighborhood like she was some kind of suburban warlord. And tomorrow? Tomorrow was the day she fell. It was poetic. A full circle moment. The same HOA she weaponized for years was now about to kick her out. I woke up early, grabbed a coffee, and sat on my porch, watching the neighborhood wake up. People were already whispering, casting glances at Karen's house, where the blinds were tightly shut. She hadn't been seen since she got out on bail, and honestly, it was peaceful. That peace didn't last long. At noon sharp, a moving truck pulled up in front of my house. I blinked. What the hell? I set my coffee down and walked outside just as two men climbed out of the truck, checking their paperwork. Can I help you? I asked, confused. One of the movers looked up. Yeah, we got an order for a full home pack and move. This the right address? My brain stalled. What? No. No one here ordered a move. Who hired you? The second mover glanced at the clipboard. Says here it was placed under the HOA's authority. You're being evicted. My what now? I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, hell no. I own this house. I'm not part of the HOA. There's no eviction happening here. The movers looked at each other. We're just doing what we were paid for. A slow, awful realization crept up my spine. I turned toward Karen's house. Sure enough, her blinds twitched. That psychopath. I exhaled hard and pulled out my phone, dialing the HOA treasurer, Greg. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, did the HOA authorize a move for me? Because there's a truck in my driveway saying I'm getting evicted. There was a long pause. Then Greg muttered, Oh, Jesus Christ. What did she do now? I pinched the bridge of my nose. You tell me. Greg sighed. Karen still had access to HOA funds before we locked her out last night. She must have hired the movers before that happened. I stared at the truck, barely suppressing my rage. She tried to fake an eviction. She paid people to throw me out of my own house. Greg groaned. Look, I'll handle this. Tell the movers the HOA did not authorize this, and they're not getting paid. I'll have the lawyer draft something official if they need it. Oh, don't worry, I said, eyes locked on Karen's house. I got this. I turned back to the movers, who were now shifting uncomfortably. Bad news, guys. You're not getting paid. The HOA didn't approve this, Karen Wilkins did. You'll want to get your money from her. They didn't even hesitate. Oh, hell no, one of them muttered, already climbing back into the truck. The other man hesitated for half a second, then turned toward Karen's house and marched up to her door. I folded my arms, grinning. Karen didn't answer at first. It took several aggressive knocks before the door finally creaked open. What? She snapped, voice shrill. The mover held up his clipboard. You placed an order. We need payment, now. I what? I already paid. You were supposed to move him. Yeah, well, turns out you don't have that kind of authority, the mover said flatly. So either pay up for our time, or we're taking this up with the cops. Karen's face turned purple. She tried to argue. She tried to weasel her way out of it. But, in the end, the moment police were mentioned, she slammed the door in his face. The movers didn't stick around. They peeled out of the neighborhood so fast they nearly knocked over her stupid garden gnome display. And me? I laughed, loudly, on my front porch, where Karen could hear every second of it. That night, I walked into the HOA meeting feeling unstoppable. The room was packed. Neighbors I'd never even met showed up, eager to cast their vote. Karen was already sitting at the front, looking haggard, her usual sharpness dulled by the weight of reality finally catching up to her. Greg stood and cleared his throat. All right, let's get started. We have one agenda item today, the removal of Karen Wilkins as HOA president. Karen shot to her feet. I object. You don't get to object, Greg said tiredly. We're voting. Sit down. Karen's eye twitched. One by one, the hands went up. For removal, 38. Against, oh. Karen's jaw fell open. You see A&T do this, Karen, Greg said bluntly. You hired a moving company to fake evict a man. You tried to break into his house. You got arrested. What did you think was going to happen? Karen spluttered, looking around the room for support. No one met her eyes. And then, with a choked sound of pure rage, she grabbed her purse and stormed out of the room. The second she was gone, Greg exhaled. Meeting adjourned. Someone bring snacks next time. Laughter erupted around the room. I sat back in my chair, letting out a long breath. It was over. Karen was gone. By the next morning, a for sale sign was in her yard. By the end of the week, she was gone. And the neighborhood? Finally at peace. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee as the sun rose over my quiet, Karen-free street. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Victory never tasted so sweet.